And good evening. I'm Steve Kornacki in New York. And with Election Day now less than 4 months away amid a presidential campaign upended by the coronavirus pandemic that continues across the country, new polls today show President Trump struggling on multiple fronts. This with his advisors trying to get him to refocus his campaign and his message. NBC News reports that as he tries to find a line of attack on Joe Biden that sticks, quote, his political advisors have bluntly told him he can't win the November election if the campaign is about him. Now, a wave of new polls, including one just out within the last few hours from NBC News and the Wall Street Journal, paint a picture for President Trump that right now is grim. So let's take a look. This is the bottom line. NBC Wall Street Journal national poll, again, just out in the last few hours. And there it is, Joe Biden with a 51-40 advantage, 11 points over Donald Trump. You see Biden over 50% there. One way to put this in some perspective, yes, there's time to go. Yes, there's the possibility, of course, that Donald Trump could come back and win this thing. But take a look in our same NBC News Wall Street Journal poll at the past several presidents who've been running for re-election, where they stood in the NBC Wall Street Journal poll at this point. So check this out. In 2012, Barack Obama running against Mitt Romney. Right around this time, he led Romney by 6. He was reelected. George W. Bush, 2004, against John Kerry. Right around this time, he led Kerry by 2. He was reelected, won by about that margin. Bill Clinton, 1996, running against Bob Dole right around this time. NBC Wall Street Journal poll, big lead in that race for Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton did win pretty easily over Bob Dole. You got to go back. You can't see it here, but it was 1992. George H.W. Bush. It was right at this moment in the 92 campaign, the middle of July, when Bush fell behind Bill Clinton. He never recovered, never got ahead, lost the election. That's the candidate right now. That's the past president, I should say, whose trajectory Trump's most mimics. We'll see if that changes. But the last 3 presidents who all won re-election were in a very different place politically at this point compared to Trump. Let's break down some of these numbers. Again, if he's trailing by 11, not a big surprise here. His approval rating sitting at 42%, big disapproval number. This is the interesting thing. He still has, Trump, an approval rating, a positive majority approval rating on the economy. Remember, he wanted to run for re-election focusing on that, but the coronavirus has taken hold. Look at that, way upside down there. 37-59 disapprove on the coronavirus. Race relations also taking center stage, more than 60% disapproving there. So that's a huge problem for him. And then there's this as well. Can you be enthusiastic or comfortable potentially about Trump or Biden? Look, they're actually tied on this one. Same number of people say they could be enthusiastic about Trump and Biden. Here's where you start to see the difference. Do you have some reservations about them? Look at that. 22% say they do about Biden, only 8 for Trump. And why that gap? Because of this. Very uncomfortable. Would you be very uncomfortable with the idea of supporting this candidate? A majority there for Trump, only 38% for Biden. There's just a lot more really deeply held, it seems, negative feeling toward Trump as compared to Biden. Again, that seems to be a factor here. We can break this down by race. This looks like 2016 among African Americans, among Hispanics. The change is among white voters. Trump won them by 20 in 2016, now leads only by 7. There's a big gap here, that white college, no college divide. You see Trump there leading by 22. Biden with a 15-point advantage, white college plus. And let me see, I thought I had one more there. I don't. So that's the state of the race right now. You can see the president is in big trouble right now. We will see. Time, still for him to get back into this, but how could he? So what does the nature of this election mean? Will it all fall on public opinion of President Trump? I am joined by Zerlina Maxwell, Senior Director of Progressive Programming. Let me put this up on the screen and ask you both about this. There was a couple of polls, in fact, out of Pennsylvania. There was one poll out of Pennsylvania today. A couple of numbers from that poll, though. The bottom line number, this is a Monmouth poll, 53-40. Biden leading Trump there. We've seen a number of polls out of those states Hugh mentions there, those 3 traditionally Democratic states that switched to Trump in 16, that have shown results maybe not quite this lopsided, but certainly in Biden's favor. In this same poll, though, they asked folks about the prospect of secret voters. The idea, of folks basically not telling you they're going to vote for somebody, but they end up in doing it. And you can see there is a strong suspicion it seems there to cut across party lines that there are secret voters there for Donald Trump to tap into, something that wouldn't pop up in polling, that would only come up on Election Day. I'm just curious, Zerlina, do you think there's anything to that, or do you think that's just a lot of folks letting their minds get away with them a little bit?
I think it's a little bit of them letting their minds get away with it, because I think that certainly there are people that may not want to tell a pollster that they support Donald Trump because of the policy impacts on communities of color and what that says about them to support that candidate who implements those policies. But I don't think that there is a larger number of secret Trump voters than Black and brown voters who are being ignored by the media, by the mainstream media, by the Democratic establishment, and really the conversation writ large. There are more voters that voted for Barack Obama in 2012 that did not turn out for Hillary Clinton in 2016 than the margin of victory. That's the winning path for Joe Biden. He needs to focus on engaging those folks, because they've shown that they will show up if engaged to vote for the president on the Democratic side. And so that's where he needs to focus. I don't think there's a secret Trump vote. I think there's a neglected Biden vote, and Black and brown communities need to be spoken directly to in order to be engaged to turn out.
Hugh, just final question to you. You mentioned, the idea of the Trump campaign really starting to turn up the heat on Joe Biden there. We had the number in here. The voters who say they don't like Trump and they don't like Biden. If you remember back in 2016, the voters who didn't like Trump, didn't like Clinton, the double haters, they were called, overwhelmingly broke for Trump in 2016. In our poll, and we've seen this in a number of others, those voters now breaking overwhelmingly for Joe Biden. Is Joe Biden a more difficult candidate for Trump to run against than Hillary Clinton was?
He used to be. I think Vice President Biden was a much better candidate 4 years ago than he is now. And Hillary Clinton really was the worst possible nominee to run against Donald Trump. But the vice president's ability on the campaign trail this year is still very much up for grabs. And on the shy Tory, that's the term that we invented when John Major won an upset victory. That's not the model I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Brexit model, where Dominic Cummings went out and found 3 million new voters. And I'll tell you, Steve, I grew up 7 miles from Pennsylvania. I don't believe that number today. I talk weekly with Selena Zito on my radio show. Western Pennsylvania is deep red. And Joe Biden and whoever is running it is, whether it's Val Demings or Kamala Harris or whoever it is, they are going to be anti-energy and anti the thing that has brought Pennsylvania back. So I think Pennsylvania is the keystone of those 3 states. I think Western Pennsylvania is the keystone of the keystone. And God forbid it's down to the Steelers fans, but that's what it looks like to me.
All right, Hugh Hewitt.
I think it's Philadelphia.
We got a little Western Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Yep, we got that rivalry going here, it sounds like. But we'll have to leave it there for now. Hugh Hewitt, Zerlina Maxwell, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Zerlina.